Go. Well, welcome back, everyone, to the June edition of the Gordon Report. I'm here with my friend Ed Gordon. I'm Ira Wolfe from Success Performance Solutions. Ed's company is Imperial Consulting, and we've been colleagues, friends for 20 years. I think you got a head start on me. Ed, you were certainly talking about the world we're going to live in now, this employment meltdown. For years before, I had started to talk about the perfect labor storm. Hard to believe, 1999. Gave a keynote presentation to the Lancaster County Chamber of Commerce at their workforce. There was the workforce summit, and we talked about pretty much what we're experiencing today. Yeah. Yes. Sometimes it's painful to be right, but we were, and certainly much was unexpected. We didn't expect a pandemic along the way, although we should have, but it certainly accelerated, or I'm not sure if it accelerated anything. We can talk about that a little bit, but it certainly made things much more prominent in the headlines, especially trying to go about this recovery. But I guess we need to go back and count, but maybe our 8th or 9th edition when you started to talk about job shock. We started last summer, and we've been doing this monthly ever since. I've been following the Gordon Report for years, receiving that. And for anybody who wants that, you'll be able to go up to Ed's website. We'll give that information in a little bit, how you can subscribe to the Gordon Report, and then how you'll be able to get a copy of the Job Shock report that's coming out in just a few months. And so, we're going to be talking about that. Certainly, there's a lot of things going on in the news as far as labor shortages every single day. And whether it's a labor shortage, whether it's there was a couple stories just yesterday, the day before, I heard they were interviewing restaurant owners and shop owners, and you've got some great stats which we'll get into on manufacturing, where that's headed. One of your retains, one of your groups is working on that. But so many restaurants or small businesses are shutting down early. We've talked about that over the last few months. They can't open their regular hours because they can't get staffing. Diners, 24-hour diners are not open 24 hours every day. Amusement parks. One of our local amusement park is now closed 2 days, Mondays and Tuesdays, because they can't staff enough. One of the other amusement parks nearby where we grew up, we were up in that area last week, and they were talking about that about 50% of their amusements, not the amusements, but the refreshment stands are not open. Getting ice cream and candy corn and French fries and pizza and hot dogs. They're understaffed. So this is their peak season. They don't make it in these 3 months. They don't make it. And everybody wanted to go back to normal. This is normal. So one of the things that, let me just kick it off this way, little humor. I'm sure you get calls, Ed. You're well in this. I get calls every single day from clients and prospects, and I'm not even staffing, but people think that someone is holding back. Somebody has a people farm, and we're growing trees of people, and we're literally just waiting to harvest those people. That some pool that, and I know this gets into the politics a little bit, but there's all these people that are just sitting at home, and if we took away the unemployment benefits, they would just rush out and be available to work, and that's not the case. There's certainly some people that are maybe holding back, but they don't have the skills. They're not the people that we need in many of the jobs. Certainly in servers and kitchens and line cooks and servers and amusement parks, we do. We also heard for years that if we had less immigration, that we're taking jobs away from people, and there would all these Americans would rush to get all these jobs, and that's clearly not happening. And the third myth is that there's no people farms out there. We've harvested them clean. We picked them clean. And we need to learn how to grow more trees, grow more. We need to learn how to grow people farms. We know how to learn to fill the pipeline. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about rebuilding and refilling that talent pipeline. And Ed, you've been on this. This is your niche. You've been talking about retains for 20 years.
Regional talent innovation networks. So these are regional public-private partnerships between business and their communities. And think of it, folks, as a war. When you go to basic training, you're trained to fight as a team. And in that unit, there are people that you don't like. They don't have the personalities you like. They're from another part of the country. You wouldn't be with them normally if your life depended on it. And then you go into a combat situation and suddenly you realize that your life depends on it. Well, I have found communities across the US where the kids were leaving, the small businesses were closing, the tax base was going down, and they formed a public-private partnership. Some call them High School Inc., some call them the New North, some of them call them the Community Education Partnership. They're all over the country, and I call them a regional talent innovation network because that's what they want. They want more educated people. And as Ira was saying to you just now, yeah, there are a lot of people in hotel, restaurant businesses, but you know, there are about 1.5 million professional positions right now that are open, about 1 million manufacturing. There are people in IT. There are people in healthcare. In fact, every business niche that you can think of right now is crying out for workers. And the reason for it is you have a lot of baby boomers retiring right now, and about a third of those are knowledge workers. They got a good education and they have the skills they need for that profession. They're leaving. We need to replace most of them, particularly the skilled ones, because the technology doesn't replace the skilled worker. It replaces the person who's been doing work that can now be done through some form of automation. And then you have the young people coming in, and there are fewer of them right now entering the market, whether it's a high school student or a college graduate. And only about a third of those have the skills that you want to fill a job. So right now, because of what you're doing with technology and reorganization, you need about 2/3 of those jobs filled by skilled people. And the truth is, only about a third of the US workforce comfortably fits into that. Now, some of you are training, most of you aren't. So I want to talk today about how companies in different parts of the country, like yours, who are pressed to make a profit and survive, are actually meeting those goals by collaborating and working with people that maybe 5 years ago you considered your enemy, your competitor. Some of you wouldn't. They're the problem. All right. So maybe we can show the first slide there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let me go.
What a retain looks like.
Let me go find it here. Okay. There we go.
So you see how broadly based this is with many different groups. And the purpose of this is to do two things. First, to fill those vacant jobs as fast as you can right now, so you don't lose money. You're losing money every day you got a vacant job. And at the same time, looking to the long term, who's going to fill that job 5 or 10 years from now in your community? So these are collaborative groups. They get together and they find a vision that they can all support. And for the smaller businesses, this is really important because you don't have a training department. You can't afford to do this on your own. So they pool their resources. They pool what they can do with their knowledge and the money they can afford to invest in a skill training center or through a local community college, technical college, or a regular college university program. And at the same time, they try to get parents more informed and kids more informed about what goes on in their factory, in their hospital, in their insurance company, in their restaurant, whatever that business may be, in their print shop. Because there are a lot of kids out there who are interested potentially in those jobs, but they don't know anything about it. And we both know how right now a lot of jobs are being destroyed and new ones are being created. Well, people don't know about those jobs or about the technology, but also about the education a kid or a young adult or an older adult needs to fill that. So this is a real collaborative effort. There are 1,000 of these retains. Some are big and some are small all over the country, and some are very successful. Others are being starved to death because they don't get enough business support. They don't get enough support from parents or schools or local political leaders. And that's what this is all about. That's what we're talking about today, just to inform you about this, to say that, yes, this does have an impact. And the more support by you getting engaged in a group like this in your community, the quicker you're going to find the skilled workers. Because right now, the government says we have about 9.3 million. I estimate it's over 12 million because a lot of companies won't report vacant positions for competitiveness reasons. And that number, I fear, is going to go up pretty quickly to maybe 14 million within a year. And if you looked at if you've been reading Job Shock, you saw my estimate that Imperial's research shows that we'll be up to potentially 30 million vacant jobs, and that would be a disaster. So let's take a look at the second slide right now, Ira.
Okay.
All right, and this is what this is what these programs try to do. First, they're trying to help you with your current worker so that current worker doesn't become obsolete and you have to replace them. Secondly, it's trying to give out information about the kinds of jobs you have and what the education is needed to fill that job. And third, they're spreading this information not just to young adults, but also out to elementary and secondary students. And in many communities, there are career academy high schools that have been set up, not to replace the liberal arts, but to complement them. Because a lot of manufacturers and others are reporting the biggest problem they have is kids don't communicate. Kids can't write. Kids can't speak. Kids can't work on teams. They have very weak interpersonal skills. This doesn't work for your business. You need people who can communicate and also can read something, comprehend it, and apply it to their job. That's what these retains are trying to do broadly. And by the way, I'm going to be real honest with you. I've been working with retains for 10, 20 years as they try to broaden out their message. And will this have an impact on your region, your business, and the U.S. economy? Yeah, look at the third slide now for a second, if we can get that up.
Yep.
All right. If we have more retains to help rebuild the talent pipeline, as you see, by 2030, 75% of all the jobs in this economy are going to have a need for middle and high skills. If we support this, we can get an additional 30 million trained workers. These are people that apply for jobs with you, but they need some additional skills. They want to learn. They already have a lot of the skills you need. You shut down job training a long time ago because you thought you could cherry pick them. You could maybe move the job overseas. You could import the worker. Well, those days are over. And at the same time, we can get more students skilled that you can turn into good workers. And you're going to continue to automate. The fourth industrial revolution will continue to grind onward. That's why we're going to rise to 75% of all those jobs. Look at the bottom of that first column, how many low-skill jobs are left. Not a lot. Look at how many low-skilled workers are still in that available. If we have that, even with doing this for the decade, you're still going to have vacant jobs because it's going to take time to change that system. You know, the system that you grew up in that gave you your skills in the 20th century. Well, it's going to take us time to grow from 1/3 of the workforce to a much higher number of the workforce being properly skilled. And remember, most of these jobs, half of these jobs, do not require a 4-year college degree. They're a year certificate, maybe a 2-year degree, or apprenticeship education. But we know this, lifelong learning is here to stay. When you graduated with your MBA running your business, or you graduated from college, if you didn't keep that knowledge up, your business would be gone today. And that's true for all of these young people coming into the workforce and for older workers. You need the older workers because they have the skills and knowledge, and many of them are still highly productive. So these things are happening now. If you read Future Jobs, my last book, that a new edition came out in 2018, or you read now through Job Shock, and the whole report will be available by Labor Day, which will give you all the details and give you all the sources of information that we've assembled over the last several years to back up our estimates and to tell you the truth. These are facts. This is not fiction. This is not a conspiracy. This is not a political statement. This is what's going on in your community, whether it's a rural, mid-size, suburban, urban. This is the type of battle that we had earlier in this country 100 years ago when we went from the farms to the cities. Now we're going to a higher level of industrial performance. It requires a better educated workforce, much broader, much deeper. So anyway, let's stop here and delve into this a little.
Yeah. So Ed, before two things. One, I know we're going to talk about on future episodes, future months. You've already lined up a couple people. They're going to talk about what they've done in their community. So I just want to give a heads up to everyone. We're talking in the abstract today. We're talking about the idea, the concept. Certainly Ed's written quite a bit about it. You can reach out at any time to Ed, and he'll be more than happy to share the information and how to get you started with the retain in your area. But we are going to have some people join us in the future, what they've done in their communities. But right before we went on the air, you were talking about one, I think it's a new one, is it Wisconsin or Minnesota? And you talked about, and I know we've got people that are listening and watching and reading that are in manufacturing. And you gave some great examples of what was going on up there. So if you can share that with us, Ed.
Yes, this is 18 counties north of Milwaukee along the lake in Wisconsin. It's called the New North. And part of this also is the New Manufacturing Alliance. And 70% of their companies now report job openings. And and as I was commenting a little before, some of the biggest problems, the skills in demand are communication, attendance, motivation, goal setting, teamwork, math skills. Now, some of these skills can be taught in school, and some of those skills are going to be taught in your business or are going to have to be taught in the skills center. People have to learn how to learn. And what they need to learn is changing rapidly. We can't get around it. Folks, you can't click for brains. Technology is great. It gives you information. That's fine. But it doesn't teach you how to think, how to apply that knowledge to a particular career or job. That's what this is all about. Now, remember, most people have average intelligence. They should be able to do this. And what they're looking at now, these manufacturers have jobs across the board, and some of these jobs pay as high as $37 an hour. In machinists, engineers, machine operators, production, skilled trade, assemblers, welders. But this is just a little slice. We got a shortage of physicians. We have a shortage of nurses. If you have an older parent that had a stroke and you need to get some physical therapy and you call your hospital, you may have to wait a month or two for an appointment because we're short physical therapists. There's just a broad range. And you guys out there that need to sell, how many good salesmen do you have? Who's in the pipeline? It's hard to find people who will pick up the phone and talk to someone and communicate and sell and go out and visit and have the interpersonal skills to do it, let alone know your specific product line and what you need to sell them. So this is endemic. This is a war. This has been building for a long time. And we've known about it and we put it off. And Ira and I are on the front lines of this, trying to help you guys to fill those jobs and to look not just short term, but the future, because this is not going to get better, guys. It's going to get worse as 70 million boomers leave, and the supply of new talent has to get bigger of young people, as well as retraining your current worker. Uh-oh, I just lost him. I can't hear him.
Sorry, my fault.
Oh,
Maybe
okay. I'm sorry.
No. So, so I was just mouthing it, right?
Yes, I can't read lips.
Yeah, you mentioned time never too late to learn.
Right, that's right. Hey, I'm hung on my own card. That's right.
So, you mentioned, I mean, we for young people. And for any age people, I mean, we need to be constantly learning. There's new things, whether it's how to use your smartphone. I was in a discussion yesterday of the digital divide and where that's coming through is, it's getting difficult to even go to a restaurant without having some digital skills, because many of the restaurants converted to QR codes for their menus.
Right. And
that's going to continue because with the lack of servers, or if minimum wage will go up, we don't know if it'll go to $15, but wherever it's going to go, it's going to be increased. Companies, businesses are going to have to increase it. So they're going to have to become more efficient. They're going to have to automate it. So rather than having a lot of servers, running around, you're going to order it. The order will go from the QR code direct to the kitchen, right, and then they'll just have people deliver it. So there's still going to be servers, but there's going to be less of a need to do that. And again, that in higher end restaurants, that's probably not going to be an issue. But in fast food, in fast turnover restaurants, it's certainly going to be, it's going to be a way that these businesses are going to have to survive, like the diner down the street from me. They typically were paying people $2.13, the minimum wage for a server, plus tips. If they earn $30 of tips a week, they only had to pay them $2.13.
But I've been in several higher end restaurants where they couldn't find the people.
Well, they can't find people in any of them, but there will be, if you're serving a higher income group of people, then they will pay a few dollars extra. But if you're talking about going to, having a $4 cup of coffee at the local diner, that's probably not. There isn't a whole lot of margin there. But so even going to a restaurant's going to require advanced digital, or at least basic digital skills, and we don't have that. So you may not need those skills to work, but you're going to need them to live.
But I've also experienced waiters in those restaurants who have absolutely lousy interpersonal skills.
Oh, absolutely.
Are rude and uncaring, and the owner tells me that they can't find a good waiter who really understands how to communicate. Right. So it's across the board. Yeah. But we've been training housekeepers for hotels, and that too has computerization in it, to keep track of the rooms and the inventories and supplies. English is a second language for many of them. So this is, again, there's just more and more skills as you continue to use more and more technology.
Yeah.
You have to have someone who can handle learning that and using it.
Yeah, had a really interesting conversation the other day, or on Wednesday, on my podcast, Rashawn Blumberg. He's got a company called 10X Management, and we were talking about that. And he primarily works with recruiting and sourcing. It actually is not a recruiter; they actually place on-demand people. So they have this real top talent, and especially in technologies. And we ended up talking about hospitality and restaurants. And you would think well, restaurants need servers. I mean, it's not a high-tech business. Well, then you look at Domino's. Domino's doesn't consider themselves a pizza company or a food service company. They consider themselves an e-commerce company, and because 75% of their sales comes from e-commerce. So even a local restaurant that's talking about using technology, QR codes to serve, what software can they use to automate it? How can they increase the flow? How can they schedule better? All those things are going to require technology. So even a restaurant, which people still think it's a manual labor or physical labor, in order to survive, in order to continue to grow and be more productive, have more profits, they're going to have to automate what they can, and the automation will be managed by software. But some of the services, it's not that there's a robot. We're not talking about robots serving your meals, although that may come to be. We're talking about just managing the people better is going to require people that have digital skills or technology skills. And there's huge shortages. There's just not enough people to be able to do that.
But let's talk about the roadblock of short-term thinking. In the 1980s, when I first started Imperial Consulting, doing training with businesses, the reason that it took off is that the computers were just being introduced, and more companies realized they had to do training to get their workers to properly utilize this technology, and that many of them lacked team skills, communication skills, supervisory skills, etc. And that continued pretty well to the mid-90s, when they started to see, hey, I can buy the software, you take that home, you learn supervision at home on your own. You learn how to communicate at home on your own. We can shut down our training center. We can wipe out training. It's a cost. Forget it. We don't need it. Well, now it's come back to bite you, because now what you're finding out is you need trained people.
Right.
And for the long term, is it cheaper not to fill those jobs, because they're not going to be filled because the people don't exist? And if you hire unqualified people, what are you going to end up with? How much bad customer service have you personally experienced right now? Yeah, that tree. There's
no people tree if you're waiting.
Yeah, the tree is empty, guys. We need to create more talent, and it's parents supporting education for their kids. It's better classroom instruction. It's better information from you on what the jobs are. It's you cooperating with high schools and post-secondary community technical schools so you can get trained people. And it's you doing in-house training or collaborating as a small business with a training center to get the workers you need.
So,
and that's not what, and that's not what your MBA program taught you. That training is an expense. Get rid of it. What I'm telling you is, I remember years ago when I talked to Robert Galvin, who then was the president of Motorola, and they invested $2,500 per employee for everybody, from the people who made the phones to the people who sold them, who ran the business, did the marketing, etc. And he said, that investment doesn't cost me a dime, because I get greater productivity, performance, and profit. And I will continue to set up Motorola University, which now is a website.
Right.
All right. So we need to change that thinking. I want you to really think about this carefully, because I'm challenging you all now to sell this to your CEO, to the men that control the money. because they're going to lose a lot of money now without a workforce, and that's where we're at.
Okay. Ed, unfortunately, our time always goes so quickly, and I know one of the follow sessions is going to be a little bit longer because we're going to bring on different people, have a broader discussion. There was a couple questions here, but then we got to wrap up quickly. Rich Feller asked, give the name of the new book title, which I believe is Job Shock.
Job Shock, that's right. Solving the Pandemic and 2030 Employment Meltdown. Go on our website, flashing on your screen, imperialcorp.com, and you can download the different chapters that we have been issuing. And the whole document with our all the sources will be published as a PDF in its entirety by Labor Day. And we'll be doing a national campaign on this. We have a rollout plan here in Chicago on the 21st of September with a bank of economists. They'll talk about it. I'll have more information on that next month.
And I'm going to put up, there we go. That's our website. And there is a playlist up there of all the past Gordon reports that we've been doing since last, it's almost a year.
Yeah.
I think we did a 4-part series. Actually, when I'm thinking about it, we did a 4-part series that started last May. So this is our 13th month of doing this, Ed.
Well, 13 is a lucky number for me because I'm a left-handed redhead. So I'm a contrarian. So, all right.
So yeah, this is our 13th month that we've done this. And so there's should be 13. I think we skipped 1 month for the holidays, but I think there should be 12 episodes up there, so you can go back and listen to them. And the last several have been Ed's been rolling out the Job Shock. So for anybody who wants to get a kind of a sneak peek on that, or would rather listen and watch than read.
And now you got the website scrolling, and our email is similar, imperialcorp@juno, JUNO.com, imperialcorp@juno, JUNO.com. So you can email me directly or right on our website, either way.
Right. And also, Ed, the other part of what we were talking about before was learning. And I had this up. This will take you to a webinar that I did, and we're getting a lot of traction with it. It was about how to grow and thrive in what we call the FCDD world, or F'd up world. FCDD stands for frustrating, confusing, disappointing, and distracting, and that seems to be the world we live in: frustrating, confusing, disappointing, and distracting.
Yes.
And we talk a lot, in the webinar, but a lot of the work I'm doing are other skills that people need. We need people to have more grit, more resilient, to have a growth mindset. That is what got you here is not going to get you where you're going. People have to be willing to be on this continuous learning path. But one of the other dimensions is that people definitely are not taught. We're not taught to learn, but we're not taught to unlearn. We were just taught to pile it all on, just absorb more and more knowledge. The more knowledge, the more degrees, the more certificates you have, the better. But we have to unlearn some of the old behaviors we had. What even you and I and other people taught in 2000 and even 2010 and even 2018. We need to unlearn, and unlearning is a skill and it's an ability. So when in the AQAI adaptability quotient, we talk about we talk about all these things, and we talk about how to there are paths to help people improve those abilities. So and it's free, by the way. So I hope you'll go up to bit.ly/AQAI 520 and download that, and you can watch it, and please share it with as many people as you possibly can.
And you can look at many of my previous books. Many of them also were written for trainers on how to train people in the workplace, adults, effectively.
Right. And we will be back next month and the next few months, especially leading up to Job Shock. But we're going to be bringing on a few people that have been involved, either started or are leading retains on how to rebuild, how to retrain, what you can do in your communities, or what you can do in partnerships, even if it's with other businesses. It doesn't necessarily have to be a community. It's a model of how do you rebuild talent? How can you refill those talent pipelines? And certainly they've been successful. Great track record. You'll be able to ask questions to the people who have been there and done that. So stay tuned for our for next month and future months. And really excited about being able to release the to share and help distribute the Job Shock report that'll be coming out. Ed's been working on it for a long time. Ed, any final closing words?
Well, thank you for listening to us. Think about what we have said, and certainly send us your emails and questions, or even you can even pick up the phone and call me 312-664-5196 in Chicago. I will actually speak to you live. Amazing, isn't it?
Ed, thank you very much. It's always great to see you. Again, it's the Gordon Report, our June edition. Always a lot of good information. If you're interested in learning more about retains, please call Ed. If you're looking for a more immediate solutions on how to, not how to recruit, but how to position your company better. So if people are interested in working for you, that you don't turn them away through the recruitment and hiring process. That's what we do at Success Performance Solutions. So I hope you'll reach out and also, or there's a number of webinars, podcasts that are available, and they're all free, and you can certainly get a feel of what I'm talking about up there. And then, of course, which is on display here, is our adaptability quotient webinar. Please go up there. It's free. Learn how to grow and thrive in an FCD world, or an F'd up world. And until next month, the Gordon Report. This is Ira Wolfe and Ed Gordon signing off.
Bye-bye.